Hello folks, Rob Dreemeyer here. Welcome to Broadway Barfly. Today we're talking about Auntie Mame and we're making a sidecar, so stick around.
If you're a theater fan who loves a great cocktail, click that subscribe button because Broadway Barfly is the channel for you.
Auntie Mame was one of the most popular books of the 1950s. It was published in 1955 and at its peak was selling over 1,000 copies a day. In total, it sold more than 2 million copies during its initial run. Because of its popularity, it was adapted into a play that opened on Broadway in 1956 that starred Rosalind Russell. The play was a hit, and it was made into the 1958 Warner Brothers film that also starred Russell. It was adapted into the musical Mame that opened on Broadway in 1966 and starred Angela Lansbury. And the musical was made into the 1974 film that starred Lucille Ball. So Auntie Mame was sort of this mid-century phenomenon. The book was written by a man named Edward Everett Tanner III, who wrote it under the pseudonym Patrick Dennis. He wrote other books under that name as well, including a sequel to Auntie Mame and a book titled Little Me that's the source material for another musical. Patrick Dennis is also a character in the story. He's the little boy who's orphaned when his father dies and is sent to New York to live with his wacky and wonderful Auntie Mame, who opens the doors to the world for him. The character Auntie Mame was based on, or at least loosely inspired by, Tanner's real aunt, a woman named Marion Tanner, who is his father's sister. Marion Tanner shared some of Auntie Mame's eccentricities and her joie de vivre, but there were differences. Auntie Mame was a wealthy and sophisticated East Sider who lived at 3 Beekman Place, and Marion Tanner was much more of a downtown bohemian type who lived in a house on Bank Street in Greenwich Village. Marion Tanner devoted much of her life to taking in and taking care of runaway and homeless youth. Eventually, she extended her altruism and opened her door to anyone who is in need. Now, while that sounds like a charitable thing to do, her neighbors did not see it that way. They felt that she was just running a flop house, and they had a point. It also caused some grief for her nephew, who provided her with financial support. Marion Tanner was not bashful, and she enjoyed the attention that came along with being known as the real Auntie Mame, but her nephew felt that her reputation was starting to tarnish the image of his fictional character. Eventually, Tanner's over-the-top and campy writing style fell out of fashion and his books went out of print, which put a huge dent in his income. So much so that his aunt was forced to sell her home on Bank Street, and Tanner himself embarked on a completely new career as a butler, of all things. Yes, a proper Carson-on-Downton Abbey butler. It's a job that he himself said he enjoyed, and he got to work in the homes of several wealthy and prominent people, and he did so relatively incognito. Because while his employers might very well have heard of the famous author Patrick Dennis, they had no idea that their butler, Edward Everett Tanner III, was actually the same person. One of his more well-known employers was a man named Ray Kroc, and if that name sounds familiar to you, it's because Ray Kroc was the founder of McDonald's. Who knew? Picking one single cocktail to pair with Mame was a difficult task because in all of its incarnations, there are countless cocktail references. In both the play and the musical, her opening line has something to do with bathtub gin. Little Patrick makes a martini for his trustee, the banker, Mr. Babcock. They enjoy mint juleps while they're at Peckerwood Plantation. They drink daiquiris at Ups and Downs, and the list goes on and on and on. Well, I've decided that we're going to focus on one cocktail, and that's the Sidecar. It's one of my favorite cocktails, and also I suspect it's a favorite of Auntie Mame because she does, after all, order one for breakfast. I have done a lot of reading up on the Sidecar, and nobody can seem to agree on its origins. Some people will tell you it was created in the years following World War I at the Ritz Hotel in Paris, while others say it came from the Bucks Club in London. Some people will say it was created by Harry McElhone, who is the owner of Harry's New York Bar in Paris and the author of cocktail books. And there's another school of thought altogether that says it was created by an American Army captain while he was in Paris. Who knows? But there are a couple of things that are universally acknowledged. One is that it emerged in the years immediately following World War I. 2, that it emerged from Europe. And 3, that it's an evolution of a cocktail called the Brandy Crusta, which was first created in the 1850s in New Orleans. There are also disagreements as to how the cocktail got its name. The well-known mixologist Dale DeGroff claims it was named after a cocktail sidecar. And in the mixology world, a sidecar is that little bit that's left over in a shaker that doesn't quite fit into the glass and is sometimes served alongside in a shot glass. But because the cocktail emerged in the years following World War I, it's just as likely that the cocktail was named after a motorcycle sidecar, because motorcycles with sidecars were important military vehicles during World War I. They could be maneuvered on and off battlefields quickly and easily, and often the sidecars were outfitted with either artillery so that they could fire when necessary, or just as often with stretchers so that they could pull wounded soldiers off the battlefield. Well, if we take anything away from these conflicting stories of origin of the sidecar, it's probably that we should not entrust the recording of cocktail history to people who actually drink them. So let's go ahead and make our sidecar. To make our sidecar, we need cognac, Cointreau, and lemon juice. If you don't have cognac, you can still make a good sidecar with regular brandy. And if you don't have Cointreau, you can still make a good sidecar with another brand of triple sec. But if you don't have fresh lemon juice, then don't make a sidecar. You cannot make a good sidecar with the bottled stuff. So without fresh lemons, have a Manhattan that night and save the sidecar for some other time. The cocktail is traditionally served in a glass with a sugared rim. That was not a part of the cocktail originally. That emerged in the mid-1930s, and it stuck because, well, who doesn't love a sugared rim? So we're going to first prepare the glass, and then we'll mix the drink. To prepare the glass, we're just going to take a little piece of lemon and dampen the outside of the glass like so. And instead of just putting the glass straight down, we're going to roll the edge into the sugar, and that'll help keep the sugar on the outside of the glass and not on the top or the inside where it could mix with the actual drink. So once we have the glass prepared, we can just set this aside and we'll mix the cocktail. Just as there are discrepancies in the origin, there are all sorts of different schools of thought about how a sidecar should be made. The French version are equal parts of all the ingredients. The British version is 2 parts cognac to 1 part Cointreau and 1 part lemon juice. But a more contemporary ratio, and what we're going to make today, is the 3-to-1 ratio. And so for a 3-ounce cocktail, that means we need 1.5 ounces of our cognac, 1 ounce of our Cointreau, and 1/2 ounce of our fresh lemon juice. And then we'll give this a good shake with some ice. We'll strain this into our glass with the sugared rim. And we will garnish it with a twist of lemon peel. And there we have a sidecar that would do Auntie Mame proud. So until the next time, cheers.
If you enjoyed the video, why not give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends? Feel free to leave your comments and click that subscribe button because there's a lot more Broadway Barfly to come.